What is going on YouTube? It is your boy Mr. the Baboon back with a reaction video. This time we have the final episode, episode 5 for Vlad the Impaler series. This is The Living Dead. Or something like that. I don't know. I'm still pretty high. Keep that in mind. So, if you guys notice, same shirt on. I got all these Vlad the Impaler videos done in one setting. So, tomorrow I will be streaming. Tomorrow is Tuesday. I mean, obviously these will already be up, so I would have already streamed and everything. But be on the lookout for on the channel and everything. I will have like a little 10-second, 30-second minute video come out saying I'm live on Twitch and everything. And then once my live stream is over, I'll probably end up deleting that however many seconds that video is for me telling. You know what I mean? You guys see. So, let's go and get started with this. Like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications. If you guys are new, check the description. I will have the video, the channel link down below. If you guys want to check it out, you guys can. With that being said, we are going to go ahead and jump into this. So, let's see. I got a like. Let's get this going.
14.
Let's see. Yep, everything's good. Let's go.
1476, Constantinople. A messenger stands before Mehmed the Conqueror. He brings news of a victory against the tyrant Vlad III, who has massacred the faithful and spurned Mehmed's friendship. But the messenger didn't come alone. He carries a box, which upon its opening reveals the head of the treacherous, slain son of the dragon. Or, at least that's what one story says. Because like many of the stories in this series, the accounts of how Vlad died are contradictory. We just know that 2 months into his third reign, he fought a battle with the Ottomans and lost. In fact, it's kind of ironic that given all of the excruciating detail we have about how Vlad killed his foes, we know little about his own death. But death was not the end of Vlad Dracula. Because if there's one truth about human culture, it's this. When history doesn't provide a fitting end to a historical life, legend's gonna step in to finish the job. And Dracula refused to stay in the grave.
Yep. Well, I mean, this is the final episode.
Thanks so much to Curiosity Stream for helping raise the stakes in historical storytelling. Despite his relatively brief time on the throne of Wallachia, less than 7 years in total, at the time of Vlad Dracula's death, he was already casting an outsized shadow over history. For instance, do you remember back in episode 3 when we talked about the parade of cruelty and massacre during Vlad's second reign? Well, one of those incidents that might have gotten lost in the sheer cacophony of awfulness was Vlad's massacre of Transylvanian Saxons in Brasov, an act that had huge consequences. See, those Saxons were German. And while they had come to the area a couple of centuries before, they still had family and trade ties with their homeland, which in the mid to late 15th century was one of Europe's greatest centers of printing and publishing. Now, many early books and pamphlets printed in Europe essentially functioned as political and religious propaganda. And after his massacres of Saxons in Brasov, Saxon printers made Vlad a favorite villain in their printings. Meaning, as Vlad cooled his heels as a captive in Hungary, he was becoming internationally famous for cruelty and butchery, a portrayal that only escalated after his death. Now, it's important to note that many of these stories printed about Vlad were exaggerated, and a bunch likely not true at all. In fact, we've been very careful to not draw on them too much as sources, and label said sources appropriately in the rare times that we do. Because while this genre of writing was originally intended to smear one's enemies, it also became a sort of early horror literature. Even as far back as the 15th and 16th centuries, the general rule for publications was, if it bleeds, it leads.
I can't skip this ad. I can't skip it.
Meet 3 people who took control of their money with Chase Secure Banking.
Can't skip this ad.
No minimum deposit to open it. Simple tools. Control at hand. One bank for today and tomorrow. Chase, make more of what's yours.
We're just waiting.
Meaning, stories of blood and guts sold well, particularly if they came along with gruesome woodblock prints. Even ostensibly serious religious books, like the 1563 publication Fox's Book of Martyrs, for instance, would get spiced up with lurid scenes of Protestants getting tortured or burned at the stake. Also, Catholic art and publications had a similar fascination with violent imagery, and the existing stories about Vlad served as a perfect jumping-off point for German authors to create stories about him doing, well, basically any twisted thing they could imagine. The Ottomans, similarly, were happy to preserve stories about Vlad's awfulness, since it justified removing him, and made Hungary look bad for supporting him. Early biographers also played a part in this mythologizing, though sometimes to Vlad's benefit. For example, a Greek biographer who appreciated Vlad's years fighting the Ottoman Empire while acknowledging Vlad's cruelty also went out of his way to try and discredit Radu. This included claims that Radu converted to Islam, which is debatable, and that he and Mehmed were actually a gay couple, a portrayal historians also find suspect since it only exists in one very anti-Ottoman source. But before you come at us, all you Mehmed Radu stans, we're not saying this wasn't a thing, just that it's not totally established fact. Ooh, but you know what is a fact? Until this very series, Rob didn't know that people actually shipped historical figures. But now he can't unknow it. Anyway, one important thing to consider is that despite all of the things said about Vlad, he was never, in any sense, accused of being a vampire. That was the work of Irish writer Bram Stoker, who ran across accounts of Vlad as he prepared to write a vampire novel that would marry Romanian folklore with 19th century technology and medical knowledge. Now, exactly how much inspiration Stoker took from Vlad has been hotly debated among historians. There are those who argue that he did extensive research on Romania, its folklore, and its history. Libraries he used have discovered margin notes in books on the subjects, and Jonathan Harker's journey into the Carpathian Mountains is broadly correct in its descriptions of routes, terrain, and even some local beliefs. Also in the novel, Stoker's Dracula even talks about raiding across the Danube and fighting the Ottomans in his life. But then the discovery of Stoker's notes in the 1970s turned a lot of these theories on their heads. Now, historians generally agree that Stoker knew little of Romania and essentially copied Harker's route and descriptions of the countryside from a 19th century travel guide. His descriptions of Dracula don't match Vlad at all, and he drew upon previous English vampire novels as much as Romanian folklore. His notes, in fact, don't even contain the name Vlad III. They do, however, seem very excited about the fact that several princes were from a family line called Dracula. So excited, in fact, that in his notes he actually scrawled, "Dracula in Wallachian means devil," with Dracula and devil in all caps. In other words, he probably just liked the name, but didn't really know what it meant. Which actually was understandable, because by the 19th century, the word for devil and dragon had become interchangeable in Romanian. Plus, the local folklore of the time had forgotten the Order of the Dragon connection, claiming that Vlad was called Dracula for his cruelty. But even though his knowledge on the references he drew from and translation of the name of its title character is flawed, let's also try to remember that Stoker originally named his vampire Count Wampir and titled the book simply The Undead. I know, Zoe, I wouldn't watch Christopher Lee in that either. So that's how the outside world knew Vlad the Impaler. From Stoker's moderately successful novel, to blockbuster play, television and film adaptations, to Halloween costumes, games, and a whole tourism industry in Romania centered around Dracula's castle. A castle that Vlad probably never visited, and that Bram Stoker never saw. But don't let that stop you from going, actually, because it's still a pretty freaking cool castle. But that international fame is only half the story. Because while everyone outside Romania saw Vlad as either a psychopath or blood-drinking Victorian monster, Romania itself had its own view. To speak very broadly, in the century after Vlad's death, Wallachia and Moldavia became Ottoman tributary states, whereas Transylvania remained independent for 2 centuries before falling under the Austro-Hungarian Empire. At times, between 2 and 3 of the kingdoms shared the same monarch, drawing them closer together. Then by the 19th century, the 3 had enough of a shared sense of identity that they launched a series of simultaneous rebellions with the goal of independence. Finally, in 1878, in the aftermath of the Russo-Turkish War, Wallachia and Moldavia united to form Romania and later added Transylvania after World War I. And a core component of 19th century nationalism was drawing historical heroes out from history. And at a time when Wallachia and Moldavia were struggling for independence from Ottoman rule, Vlad the Impaler fit the mold of a hero that spoke to the present issue.
Not bad.
This
hey, we can skip this one though. Look at this.
You're not ready for it.
In Romania, he was seen as a brutal but fair ruler who kept Wallachia independent for a time and died defending his land from greater powers. Now, if you've watched all this series, you've probably concluded that Vlad cared more about gaining and keeping personal power than any noble cause. But as is often the case with nationalistic heroes, this was ignored in favor of a story that fit more neatly with 19th century Romanian politics. The image of Vlad as an independence fighter, doing what had to be done to keep his kingdom independent from the Ottomans, just felt true at the time, and turned Vlad into a national symbol. Though to be fair, even though Vlad remains a celebrated figure in modern Romania, many Romanians continue to debate over whether the country should really be proud of him. Who'd have thunk it? This stuff's complicated. But all of these disparate opinions of Vlad's story only serve to make it more interesting. From a life that was messy, often confusing, and of, let's just say, ambiguous loyalties, later writers have crafted Vlad into everything from a nationalist icon, to horror character, to folklore figure, to literary vampire, and to bait for tourist traps. Meaning, he's a fascinating study in how, if you're famous enough, one day you may end up rising from your grave to become something else entirely. Which makes you want to take a good look in the mirror, doesn't it?
That's pretty good. Excuse me. Honestly, this series was a pretty good series. Let me know if you guys learned anything.
If you enjoyed this series,
let me know if you guys learned anything new or anything about Vlad the Impaler, or if this was your first time learning about him. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. We could talk about it there. I think that's gonna do it for the video. If I'm being honest, I'm pretty hungry, so I'm probably gonna go get some food and then relax for the rest of the day. So, let me know what you guys thought about this series. Like, comment, subscribe. Check the description. Like I said, I will have the video and the channel link for you guys there. If you guys want to watch it, you guys can. With that being said, I will see you guys in the next one. You guys watch out for each other. Stay safe. Positivity is key. Motivation is key. Happiness is key. I will see you guys in the next one. You guys watch out for each other. I'll see you guys in the next one.